Well, hello and welcome to the podcast, Your Future in Sales and Marketing, with me, Mike Dixon, Director of AXR Recruitment and Search. Our purpose at AXR is to help you make great career decisions. And in the podcast today, we're going to challenge your thinking. Is the corporate path for you? Maybe, maybe not. Welcome to today's guest, a man whose star is rising in the FMCG and non-alcohol liquor world, founder and CEO of Yes You Can Drinks, Tyler Martin. Tyler, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Really looking forward to this session, Tyler. We were chatting before that, your career path is probably one of the more unusual ones we'll discuss in the pod, in the sense that it's not the classic FMCG sales marketing category career journey. But before we get into that, let's ask the normal kind of icebreaker questions that we do. First of all, question on your favorite brand. And I know you want to talk about Yes You Can Drinks, but if you didn't have to talk about a brand you've either founded or worked on, what would it be?
Probably two. One's legacy, Nike. I think that's just, endured so many generations and still so relevant. And I just love their product as well. And then one more recently in an adjacent category is Liquid Death. Water brand from the States that is just changing how to sell, a commodity basically.
So obviously Nike, I know. Liquid Death, I don't. So tell me a bit more about it.
Yeah, so they're basically a water brand founded by a creative. He was an agency guy, and they've just created this brand that is so out there. You need to, anyone listening, definitely worth looking up. They've done things like a collaboration with Tony Hawk where they literally drew blood from him and put it on a skateboard. They are like, they've done basketballs with, a cartoon head on it, like just some crazy stuff. And they're just selling a commodity. But I think they've raised money at almost $1 billion valuation.
Seriously?
In 3 to 4 years
Wow.
since they started. So they're basically a creative agency that just happens to sell water.
Right. Guys, look it up. Liquid Death.
Yeah, really
Love
cool.
it. Fantastic. So let's chat a bit about life earlier on, Tyler, just to kind of get to know you. Where did you grow up? What was early life like for you?
So born in Canada, can't tell from the accent, but moved to Australia when I was 2 or 3. Grew up in Sydney, and I guess a normal enough life. Got stuck into sport pretty early days, and showed a little bit of aptitude in water polo. So sort of saw that to as far as I could take it, and did the school, university, and then didn't really know what I was going to do when I grew up, and in some respects still don't.
Yeah. I kind of, I'm a little bit older than you, Tyler, and I still have that conversation with my mates. What are we going to do? Yeah. Still feels like you're making up a little bit as you go along, right? But I don't think it ever leaves you. But
yeah.
Cool. Now you were very modest there in talking about playing water polo. I like your LinkedIn profile. It says, I think you have it in this order: Dad, Olympian, and founder. Which one's the hardest?
A good question. We've just welcomed a newborn, so I think we've got a toddler and a newborn now. So I think Dad is probably the most challenging and most rewarding.
Yeah.
Olympian, it's that there was a lot of effort that went into that, obviously, to achieve that or get there in the end. But founding a company it's challenging challenging Dad as a challenging role.
Yeah. Doing both at the same time, really, really tough. But so let's kind of jump into the Olympic piece, because I'm really interested in just, I guess, your sports career prior to, and how you transitioned from sport to business effectively as an entrepreneur. But so tell us a bit about life as a full-time athlete, because I imagine water polo is not like a cash-rich sport. So, how did you get by financially? What was involved in being a full-time athlete?
Yeah, so it's a classic Olympic sport. So it's, I guess, professional, but it's amateur pay, professional hours, amateur pay, particularly in Australia. Like for context, the best player in the world right now might be earning about 250 thousand Australian dollars.
Right.
And that's the LeBron James of water polo. Triple Olympian, gold medals, blah, blah, blah. So I... and because of that, you're training early in the mornings, you're training late at nights. The day is filled with school or uni or work. I played professionally for not a whole lot of money, but enough to save a little bit and go on a holiday at the end of the season. So I played in Italy, France, and Hungary. Amazing experiences, but again, it was never going to sort of buy me a house. And it was all in pursuit of the goal of going to the Olympics. and playing for Australia at the high level. So while I was playing, I saw an opportunity and I actually started a swimwear business. And it was something that I could sort of work from a laptop. I guess how I started it, I happened to meet a guy when I was playing in Italy, an American guy in a bar. I was 20. I got his business card. I came back at the end of the season and just emailed and said, hey, and he owned a swimwear business in the States. I emailed him. I said, hey, I'll do some work for you over here. One thing led to another. I ended up sort of going past that avenue and going straight to the factory and starting my own business. So I started that business, ran that for about 6 or 7 years in the end. And the first year, it paid for my holiday. The next year, it paid for my car, and it slowly but surely became a really good little business. So that was kind of how I merged sport and survival and of making money.
Yeah, that's very entrepreneurial. Is that something that's always been with you, that kind of eye for the opportunity, or it sounds really kind of serendipitous? You just meet a guy in a bar, and before you know it, you're launching a business through that connection. Is that just how your mind works?
I think so. I mean, it's a dangerous place to explore how my mind works, but I think so. Like I never, I suppose, have had a normal job, so to speak. I did a little bit of part-time work in a bank when I was going through uni, and I very quickly realised it probably wasn't for me. So yeah, I guess that's just how my mind works. And similar as we'll get to with Yes You Can drinks, it's an opportunity. Whether I have it or don't have experience, it's just, I guess, giving it a shot.
Yeah, and the swimwear brand Delfina.
Yep.
And that's still going as a business?
Yeah. So I sort of stepped away from that just before COVID. And part of that exit was actually contingent on future sales, and then everything stopped over COVID. So I was in the year of my chill time, so to speak, because I sold it for an amount that wasn't going to buy me my mega yacht, but could buy me a little bit of time just to sort of figure out the next thing. That was up in the air because COVID happened. So we actually very, very quickly pivoted into doing face masks, and I jumped straight back in. So Delfina was a face mask business for a year.
Okay.
And we ended up doing face masks for BMW, Mercedes, like Beacon Lighting, Miele, a whole heap of random and big companies.
Yeah.
And Zero Swimwear for about 9 months, and then and so I, in that business, it was probably 2 or 3 different businesses that sort of came out of it. But yeah, that's still going now. So it's order has resumed, I suppose. And they're still doing really well, and I'm still involved at, like, I guess, an advisor level there.
Okay, so you're still connected.
Yeah.
Great. And did you ever, you mentioned you worked at the bank when you were kind of at uni. Did the corporate path and corporate world ever appeal, or did you see, is it something that presented itself, or you just decided not to pursue that?
Yeah, it never really appealed to me, and there was never something that really I really gravitated towards in that space. But I've got lots of friends in it, and it's amazing for some people, but probably just not for me. Yeah, at this stage at least.
Well, yeah, exactly. But and was that just perception, or the feeling that you would be tied a little bit down, or what kind of, when you just explore that a little bit for me?
Yeah, so I don't fully know a short, sharp answer for you on that one, but I think a couple of things. Whilst I've been in a team and I've always had amazing coaches, I don't like the idea of, reporting to a schedule and a structure that I may not necessarily agree with. I like the freedom of doing my own thing, and whilst I would say I work significantly longer hours than I would if I had a corporate job now, I am the decision maker on that. So I'm the architect of my own life, I suppose, in that way. So yeah, I think I just didn't want to be tied down. I'm not a suit wearing guy, really. I'm just and I respect it, and I'm not like anti-corporate, but it's just not for me.
Yeah. No, I understand. So founding Delfina, you were still playing water polo at that time. So you got to the Olympics. Which Olympics were you?
Rio 2016.
Rio 2016, great. And did you continue after that, or was that the kind of pinnacle and stop after that?
Yeah, so I was 26 there, which is really young in terms of your water polo maturity. Okay. Like, you come into your best years, in theory, like early 30s. But I'd done everything that I wanted to achieve: Olympics, world champs, played overseas, etc., etc. So playing at the high level, like playing for Australia, requires 20, 25 hours a week of training, pretty much all year round, and games, training, whatnot. Lots of travel. Had a serious girlfriend who's my fiance and mum of our 2 kids. So it was just, there was nothing left for me to sort of give or get, I suppose. I still play at like the A-League level of water polo. It's like the highest you can play in Australia for my local team, and I still love that. But yeah, in terms of like an international career, I just happened to hit my 100th game for Australia. I was like, that's enough. I'm really satisfied where that landed.
Oh, congrats. 100 games for Australia, World Champs, Olympics. It's, I think, probably the first person on the podcast. We've had a professional athlete on, actually, but I don't think he went to Olympics, so you're definitely one up there. Congrats, superb career. And part of it was also the fact that, you know, Delfina was going well, and you could see you're getting some excitement and I guess engagement, and you could see a future in business as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, because you do pretty much put your life to a degree on hold. Your priority more or less has to be the sport, and it's thankless in that it's not a high paying sport like your rugby leagues or your NBAs or anything like that. So at some point, like in Australia, 26 is old for many Olympic sports. So there was definitely that. I was like, I wanted to run hard with Delfina, and then I always knew that I wouldn't be running Delfina forever, and I wanted to jump into something that was more scalable as well. And
so you're still connected to Delfina on an advisory basis, but you exited that business by and large just before COVID.
Yep.
But you also found another business, Pet Flares.
Yeah, so that's a funny sort of business that we start. Me and a really good friend of mine who's doing amazing things in the health tech space now. He was working at Koala Mattress, a real creative guy. We said, let's just do a fun little project, a Kickstarter. So it was kind of like, I'm not too sure if you know Kickstarter, but it's a website where you launch, an idea, and then you get people to say, yeah, I like the idea, I'm going to pre-purchase this.
Okay.
And then
Kickstarter.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting for like idea incubation. And, you know, for any FMCG prospective founders, it's probably a good, testing opportunity. Hey, I'm going to launch this, whatever it may be. Is there enough interest out there? So we did that. So the idea was we'd put people's pets on swimwear, towels, and bags and a few other things. And we leveraged the relationship with Delfina Factory to actually bring this to life. Anyway, so we launched on Kickstarter and it went crazy. We did 100 and something thousand worth of pre-sales in like a matter of weeks.
Really?
We spent nothing on PR. We got everyone from like the Daily Mail, like it got, I think, 60 million views on like across various platforms around the world. We ended up having orders from, I think, 53 countries. George Takei shared it on his personal page. It was like quite bizarre. And in the end, once it was all said and done, and we fulfilled orders, we were packing us. It was complete mayhem. And by the end, we didn't make much money out of it. And we ended up doing a couple of $100,000 in sales in like a short period of time. But there wasn't a sustainable business there. Right. Unless we went all in and we were the customized pet brand for everything you could do, which we weren't passionate about. We weren't in the stage of our life to do that. But an incredible learning experience. And it was just wild when I look back.
What an amazing story, really.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who have an entrepreneurial kind of bent, there's a leap from an idea to reality, but then there's a reality, it doesn't always work out, even though that you can have success on some level. You need, I think as you pointed out, their passion, and it's got to be scalable and sustainable as well as just a great idea in the moment. But so you probably could have done it, but you needed to kind of be all in.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we were at. We were both sort of doing other things that were sort of making us, paying our living.
Yeah.
And it was like, it was just that decision that we said, hey, this is awesome, and we can bundle this up now and move on from it. And that's what we did.
Right. So definitely developing some entrepreneurial muscle and learning a lot about business, startups, going through the Delfina and Pet Flair, and which takes us on to Yes You Can drinks, which is the current business, and how I got to know you, Tyler. But so it feels like a big leap, from what you've done before into the world of FMCG effectively. Tell us the story, how and why.
Yeah, so like I touched on before, I was supposed to have a year off that coincided with COVID. So I was out of Delphine. We ended up doing face masks, which was complete mayhem as well.
Yeah.
I think I'm a sucker for punishment, I think. But we moved to New Zealand, where my partner's from. Because of COVID, we didn't know what it was. She was pregnant. So we bunkered down in New Zealand for about a year. We were supposed to stay a few months. COVID did its thing, and we ended up staying, and it was great. While we were over there, she was pregnant. I was just sort of saying, I'm going to have a bit of time off and find my next thing. Doing a whole heap of research in consumer brands, because consumer brands have always interested me. Doing some research in the States, what's going on there, what are some trends, et cetera, et cetera. And I was sort of floating around beverage or, different bits and pieces, completely naively, and we'll get to how naive I was and probably still am in a bit. And she was pregnant. We're at at a restaurant. Everyone was having a drink and she was craving a spritz. She couldn't have a spritz. That kind of said, hey, that's a need state. And it sort of triggered something in me that in my sporting career, there was plenty of times when I had fake vodka sodas. I'd be out with my friends. I'd buy a round. It'd be 6 vodka sodas and mine would just be soda because I had training or a game or a flight, but I wanted to fit in and not, I guess, be abused by my friends. So I was like, oh, that's something. So it ticked a few boxes just on a personal level. And we said, okay, let's dig a bit deeper here. Started, no idea about food tech, no idea about beverage, no idea about, so many things. But I thought, let's just peel the onion back layer by layer. First, let's just talk to a branding agency. Let's see if we can come up with something that's cool. Cool is a terrible word, but like something that's different and exciting, let's say. We did a bit of research on the marketplace. There was no one that was doing what we wanted to do. Heaps Normal in the beer world had kind of just launched, and I was like, oh, that's a really interesting, disruptive brand in a category that needs some life and excitement around it. Maybe we could have our spin on the cocktail space of that. And then I reached out to all these flavor houses that I just literally had to Google. Barely anyone got back to me because I was just another tire kicker in their eyes. And it's funny now, they're all emailing, hey, can we work with you? Can we work with you? It's like, where were you when I needed you? A friend of mine who was in, supplement space connected me with, got me the backdoor introduction with a flavor house in New Zealand. And I said, this is my idea. And then we said, let's work on this together. I got a cocktail mixologist who was an award-winning mixologist over in Australia to basically write out the perfect serve of the 15 most popular cocktails. We literally made those cocktails with the food tech and the food scientist in the lab in the alcohol form. We said, okay, change this, do this, do this, do this, and we got our first prototypes. And then I thought, all right, we've got something here.
Yeah. So you've, that's a really kind of, so needs-based idea came along, actually did something about it, created this product portfolio with a view that you were going to create this brand. But FMCG, whether it's liquor, non-alcohol, it's just full of people who are world experts. They've been doing it forever. And in steps you. How far has your knowledge come? Where did you start? How much do you know now?
Well, when we ideated it was about two and a bit years ago, and when the idea came to me.
Yeah.
And I reckon I didn't know what FMCG was as an acronym until about just over a year ago. So I was like, FMCG, CPG, I'm like, what are all these crazy? And so I knew nothing. And what I knew was how to basically build something from nothing. I'd done that a few times and just find that ability to find, plug the gaps, help build a brand. And I didn't know anything about launching a product to market in FMCG. So what we did, we ended up moving back to Australia. We had a canning, I worked out getting the canning. I was speaking to the canning suppliers, to the third-party manufacturers, coordinating all this stuff that normally I now know is a team of people doing, supply chain operations teams. Yep. We were ready to go, and then the guys we were ready to go with, they used the preservative that we didn't want to use, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know what a preservative really was and the benefits or disadvantages of that. So at literally the 11th hour, we had to change from a Brisbane manufacturer to a Melbourne-based manufacturer, which meant getting all our cans, packaging, everything from Brisbane to Melbourne when they originally started in Melbourne, literally around the corner from the production, and like running around like a madman calling people, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? Then we finally had our run and we've got 50 pallets of product and I've got no distributor, nowhere to sell them, a website that was basically geared for semi-e-commerce but not really optimized. It was like more of a nice landing page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, crap. I don't know what I'm doing here. And that was like it was just like baptism of fire. And you know, I've actually got a document that I literally build every week, or add to every week. That's like things I would like learnings, I suppose.
Yeah.
And like there's like a whole lot on go-to-market strategy. Like we should have had a conversation with the major retailers, distributors a year before this was even made.
Yeah, correct.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll build something great and people will just like it. and people did like it.
If you build it, they will come.
Basically.
Yeah.
But and they like it, but they didn't know where to get it from. But where do I buy it? Oh, will I get it online? Oh, it's not there anymore. So that distribution I've learned is absolutely key.
Yeah.
And that was the one massive missing piece of the puzzle that I didn't even think about.
Yeah. Well, the product's great. I've obviously tried it. So Tyler, for those who are watching as opposed to listening on podcast, you've got some cans here today, so show us your range.
Yeah, cool. So this is our core range. I'll lead with the hero product. This is our spritz based. This is the original prototype. We've worked on a few times, but this was the original idea behind it. My partner wanted a spritz, so this is her product. Basically, we made this for her. Dark and Stormy. This one won world's best non-alcoholic drink last year in the World Drinks Awards. So
wow.
we sent stuff over. Again, I didn't know that's what you do. I get a call from someone saying, hey, you're entering the World Drinks Awards? I said, oh, what's that? Sent it over. I'm like, oh, if we win, we'll talk about it. If we don't, this never happened.
Yeah.
That one happened to win the world's best drink, which
Amazing.
was unreal for us and huge validation by experts. G&T, gin and tonic, classic dry bitter gin and tonic. They were our original three. Then we launched a Yuzu Sake, which has been our second best seller since we've launched it. It's been really, really popular and a bit of a challenger flavor.
Yeah.
And then this is our most recent, which is just like my new favorite actually. And I'm not a Bellini drinker, but Peach Bellini. We did a collaboration with Acon, which is a LGBTQ plus charity partner, and we launched that in Pride Month early this year for Mardi Gras, and that's our core range. And we've got heaps of NPD ready to go, but like I touched on before, until we have solid distribution strategy and go-to-market plans, I now know that I'm not going to have a shed full of NPD that might be the best product in the world, but to bring the customer along with us.
Yeah, bringing the customer journey is key. And let's just focus on the customer for a bit, because I love it. You got 50 pallets of stock and you're like, oh, where do I sell this? How do I sell this? What did you start with in terms of a sales strategy, and where are you now?
Yeah, so that's been probably the biggest learning. Like everything from channel strategy, just managing distributors, where do we have direct partnerships? What does online play? What role does that play for us? Which we still think is going to be a big role moving forward as well. So without going into the nitty-gritty details, we've had 3 or 4 different distributors. Some have been good, some haven't, been amazing for both parties. We haven't had a messy divorce from any distributor, but we've had robust conversations about strategies and sales plans and targets and things like that. So we managed to get a few distribution deals. Some are still going well. Some we've exited, but we're now consolidated. Now how I met you in the first place. We've brought on board an experienced gun in the space, Tom, as a partner in the business. So between now, he brings 20 years of FMCG experience mixed with my naivety / like ability to challenge the status quo. And now we're I guess a year in market. Now we know who we want to speak directly to, what channels we're just not going to go near now because they're not ready for it, and where we want to work with distribution or wholesale partners. So I'm much clearer around that now. A year ago, I was like, anywhere we can sell it, we'll sell it. Now I'm like, okay, we need to be a bit more deliberate because we know some channels just aren't ready for this space.
Yeah, and every sale's not a good sale because it has to be sustainable. you're in line with your strategy. And I guess that's where someone like Tom Donovan comes in. His background is Diageo, Red Bull, Krispy Kreme, and so you guys together potentially make a pretty formidable team in terms of putting that kind of energy and go-getting mindset from you to somebody who's kind of process structure. Let's kind of do that, do it properly. So I think it's a really interesting team, and can't wait to see where it goes. But and when we start to look forward, what do you think the future is for the business?
Yeah, so we're really excited by it. We think that it's still such an early category in Australia, and it's getting a bit of buzz out there, non-alcoholic. We know the trends. People are drinking less and less and less. We want to be an iconic brand that is, I guess, synonymous with mindful drinking. And I think we've got everything there. We've got great liquid. We've got a great brand. The next phase for us is we'll raise some money. We've got some people that are really interested so far, and we'd like to make that strategic. So we're really excited about that process, and that's the same deal, right? It's like not every investor is a great investor for this point in time in our business. So we're having some really exciting conversations around that. That will enable us to bring in some more a combination of, I guess, what I think the business needs, which is more experience in certain functions of the business, and then also bring in exciting, young, positive attitude people as well, who may or may not be, 20-year veterans in FMCG.
Yeah.
And then we just want to expand our footprint. We want to go global. We want to expand our NPD range, and work with key partners on how we become, basically an iconic Australian brand that can travel.
It's really exciting. And when you talk like that, it kind of makes me think, well, how do you balance that capability to kind of look strategic in the business, Tyler? So you kind of got those long-term goals and clear vision where you want to be, but you're just busy pedaling really fast as well. Do you kind of create space to think?
Yeah, it's a really good point. And you know what? I was really poor at that because I found myself, and I still to a degree find it, that I'm doing busy work because there's always stuff to do. There's always things to do. And like when it's a really lean team, they say, a customer will say, oh, can you send your accounts team to send me the invoice, or, your head of marketing, or who's a sales guy. And it's just, it's all the same people.
You've got another accent.
Yeah.
Exactly. Let me transfer you.
Yeah, exactly. For the most part, yeah. So it's about building up, I guess, partners who can help in that, in some of that busy work. But yeah, you're right. So now I've gotten a lot better at actually portioning out parts of the day or parts of the week, and even parts of the month. There's some, couple of hour blocks about just research on the space, what's going on, what's, some deep work, deep thinking. There needs to be busy work by everyone at the moment, but definitely, because we don't want to lose the forest for the trees. And that's going to, I've learned a lot in that space in the last sort of 6 months as well.
Yeah, great. You mentioned investment there, and that's obviously key to any early stage business. You're also involved in a couple of investment firms yourself, Blackbird and Athletic Ventures. Just give us an overview as to what those firms do.
Yeah, so Blackbird, I've done a bit of work in a couple of their programs. I feel sometimes a little bit of a fraud in it, but like in a little bit of mentoring in business startup. I always say I can help people in what they shouldn't do, rather than like necessarily show. I'll just learn from my mistakes. Yeah. So I've done a bit of work with them. They're like number one VC in Australia, super connected, and just a great network to be a part of. Athletic Ventures is a really interesting one as well. It's a syndicate of athletes from, Paddy Mills and Pat Cummins right down to little old me, who basically get opportunities to look and invest in companies. Not early stage generally, but like Guzman and Gomez was one, Pet Circle, Eucalyptus, which is a telehealth company, and just gives athletes an opportunity to, I guess, be part of the investing sort of climate versus, or ecosystem rather, than just be like, what do I, I'll buy a house. What
do I do with my money?
What do I do with my money? Yeah. So that's been really interesting. And, at some point in time, we may be, there may be a conversation that mixes the Yes You Can world and that as well. But it's just good to have, for me, I like to keep finger on a lot of pulses as well. So for me, it's quite nice to be part of that sort of world as well.
I think it makes a lot of sense because you can get very absorbed in your own business. I think having perspective from other people and being connected and having your finger on lots of pulses, as you say, makes perfect sense and probably helps you in your day job as well.
Yeah, and like there's resources that I've learnt by being part of some of those programs and just by seeing, investor reports from these companies that helps me, I guess, think and plan around what that phase of our business will actually need to be like.
Yeah, I want to spend just a few minutes talking around, how you run the business as well. And so the business journey is super interesting from genesis to where you are. But what's the kind of role? Take us through a typical day or a week of what you do as a founder, but also a manager of the business?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's something that I'm constantly trying to evolve and be better at is actually, like I said before, not just finding myself in busy work, which is very easy to do. But because we are such a lean team at the moment, there's probably less managing and more doing. I think the next evolution of the business will be a bit more management. So I guess everything that I would do in a week, like this, it's hard to say because we haven't developed a great cadence because there's just a lot to get done and we are in this growth phase. So for example, I'm trying to put out fires on a production front, this week, today and yesterday as well. Schedules are mixed around. We're going to low on stock here, like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
We're trying to, have high level conversations with retailers, with distribution partners, with potential investors as well. So that's like an always on thing as well. And Tom does a great job on the major retail part of that as well, and the back end. It's NPD. Like we know in this space, innovation is going to be key, and that's something as a small brand we can do quickly. So that's part of it as well. And then at the moment, we're just looking at what partners look like. So, do we hire a head of brand or do we partner with a creative agency? Do we hire a head of marketing or do we, get a junior brand manager and, I oversee that function as well. So it's just kind of we're in a bit of a regroup is probably not the right word, but we're just, I guess, getting all the cards on the table and saying, okay, this is the direction we're going to go in. So in a year's time, I hope that I can tell you, well, Mondays are my investor report days and Tuesdays are my accounting days. But at the moment, there's just a lot that needs to get done. And the main structure of my week is I try and do 3 batches of emails because I used to, and I still sometimes do, live in my inbox, and it's a terrible thing to do, for me at least. And I try and bookend the week with team meetings. We try and do that. And I try and not take meetings in the first 4 hours of the day. So I can try and get some whatever deep work needs to get done in that period of time, brief a designer, write a report, et cetera, et cetera.
So you give yourself some kind of organizational guidelines to work within. But the reality is you're wearing every hat from supply chain to marketing to CEO to finance to to sales. I guess what I'm trying to do is to give people an insight into what it's like doing what you're doing. For those who are thinking, well, I'm on this corporate path, or do I go on a corporate path because I have all these ideas, maybe I should pursue that. And it sounds really exciting, but the reality is it's really busy as well.
Yeah, I think like there's days, and like Tom and I, laugh about this as well. There's days when I wake up and I say, oh man, I would kill for a normal salary and normal work hours. And then there's days when I think this is going to be a multi-$100 million business and it's going to change a lot of lives for the better, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun on the way. And, that could be today and yesterday. Like, it's not like, that's a regular founder mindset, I think. And I speak to founders in all industries, and we all have similar, aspirations and fears.
That balance. We touched on finance, investment, cash a couple of times. It's really critical when you're running a business. The best ideas and early success, can be great, but unless you've got good cash flow and good funding, it becomes really, really difficult. Give us an insight into, not the numbers, but just, the funding phases you might go through in a business like yours.
Yeah, so we bootstrapped it. I bootstrapped it to start. And that I think was good. Because I don't want to take people's money if I haven't.
And explain bootstrapping for those who don't know the phrase.
So I funded it myself, and again, that was another learning. I didn't have a finance plan per se at the start because I didn't know. And to be honest, that's no excuse. I should have made some really best and worst case assumptions. What I've learned, FMCG is wildly expensive to start. There's cost to everything. There's cost to build the thing, and there's setup costs and all that kind of stuff. And you don't get economies of scale until you're bigger, right? Which is why it's so hard for small independent brands to actually thrive, especially early. But I think for me, we've proved the concept. We're getting awards. People like the drinks. The category's moving. Now we need real money to actually, or more money, let's say, to actually really move the needle. So, yeah, there's been plenty of things that have been great use of money, and there's been plenty of things that haven't been, and it's easy to say in retrospect.
Yeah.
But for sure, it's a capital-intensive game.
Yeah.
And now, I guess, but where I can speak to an investor now and say, well, I put a decent amount of my money in just to prove this thing. Now, and that was me, one guy essentially who had no idea about FMCG, somehow, some way managed to get us into a few places and prove a bit of a concept. Put your money in. We're now building out a team that knows what we're doing. We're planned, we're structured, and we know there's heaps of headroom to go in the category and for the brand. So I think that's good. I haven't just gone to everyone and say day one, hey, give me your money because I'm going to do this. I've got no experience. No, I know. I've learned that. I'm in it. I'm in the business. I've got a real interest in making this thing, explode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good perspective. Taking an idea to investors is very, very tough. Taking something that you've bootstrapped and kind of proving the worth in the market and say, look, this is more than an idea. This is I now have something, and then you're into the phase 2 scale. But brilliant, absolutely love it. Now, I want to just talk a little bit around again. I guess timing and thinking about advice for others who might be considering, gosh, do I do this? Is there ever a right time to do it? You've done it several times now. Do you need a certain degree of life experience, or is it more just a mindset?
In my experience, which I can speak to, I think it's probably just more a mindset. I saw an opportunity. I thought, hey, that's something worth pursuing. There's a good amount of naivety in it. Just the right amount. I think, I talk about it as like a hurdling race. You jump over so many hurdles that it's just as hard to go back to the start than to keep going, So there's plenty of hurdles, and I think being aware of that, but not being afraid of that. But my biggest piece of advice, I suppose, in my experience, is I would look to start with a co-founder who can complement your skill set. My co-founder is my partner. She didn't know anything about FMCG, but she's ex-Google. We're very equipped with marketing and account management, but having someone who can really complement your skill set from day one and just to bounce off, we'll get great news tomorrow and we'll get terrible news the next day and so on and so forth. And, when you are the only person absorbing that, it's tough. And it's also less exciting than when you're on the positive end.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece, I would say, if you're looking to do, step out of the corporate world or even into something new, whatever it may be. I think there's no harm in finding a really strong co-founder to do that with and share the wins and losses.
Great. Are there reasons in your experience that businesses don't get off the ground? Is it just, someone's got the idea but hasn't got the wherewithal to do it, or is there other common reasons that businesses just don't get going?
I think quite a few probably. One, the idea is not right for the time, or the idea or timing's not right. The product or the timing's not right. This 5 years ago or 10 years ago would have been a terrible idea because the market wasn't ready. The timing wasn't right. 2, capital. You run out of cash. I think that, or you don't fully commit to what it's going to require, what's it going to take. That's probably common. And 3, and it's a word bandied around in every business, but resilience, it's bloody hard sometimes. You're going to wear a few knocks. And if you just got to, I guess, take it and keep going and keep getting up, and then not let, I guess, one knock be the fatal blow, like mentally, where you just sort of say, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah. I remember one of the first conversations we had, Tyler, and you said to me, you used a different analogy. He says, everything I do is like, laying another brick, and I'm not, I don't know if it's a great brick or not, but it's building the house. And I think of that in my business a lot. I talk to my guys, I say, every call you make, every interaction you have, everything we do positively in the market is another brick in the house that we're building. And I think that kind of keeps my resilience high. So I've taken your advice, and I kind of use that with my guys every day. Inspiring story. Love it. Love the journey you're on. I think your products are fantastic. It's an awesome brand. It feels to me that this is an absolute winner that you're onto. I hope you make your hundreds of millions.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a bad result. And I think, that's, I appreciate you taking the time and hearing my wild story. And hopefully it is just a start.
Well, we've a wonderful group of listeners. I've heard a lot of corporate stories. We've delved into a few startups. This is probably the earliest stage business we've got into. And it's been brilliant, really unpicking some of the challenges, but also what drives you and what motivates you. And I think a lot of people will take inspiration from this, Tyler. So it's been a great conversation. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Now our purpose, guys, is to help you make great career decisions, and whether that's on your corporate journey or whether that's to start your own business. I do think this has been, super exciting, and I'd love for you to take some inspiration from Tyler's story. Next on the pod is one of Australia's most senior female leaders, Susan Catania. Now, Susan's a business executive officer for Nestle Foods. So if we're going from one business at one end of the scale to the biggest FMCG in the world, from one pod to the next. So if you're inspired to think about your careers, think about your career goals, then reach out to me, anyone on my team. We'd love to have a conversation just to help you shape your thinking about what the future looks like. We've got lots of tools and assets that can help you in terms of salary guides, which step through role families, how do you progress from one role to the next. Guides on how to frame a career conversation, which will really challenge you in what you want to do. So lots we can do to help. So Tyler, thanks again. And from me, Mike Dixon, keep listening to our pod to help your future in sales and marketing.